Good day, Cochrane. Welcome to another edition of Fireside Chat with Mayor Jeff Genung. I am Mayor Jeff Genung. So, before we get started, you may have noticed that I'm wearing a little different apparel. I have the mighty scepter here and the crown. Last night at the council meeting, we had a delegation from the Cochrane Medieval Day. And they are, well, we proclaimed the July 21st as Medieval Day in Cochrane, and there will be a huge function, I'm told, and I'm going to be a part of it, I guess, as wearing this and waving this to have some fun down at the library. So I just thought we'd kick off today's little fireside chat with some fun. So I'll put that away. It's super hot. Sitting beside the fire in a nice cozy crown. Okay, well, we had a whole lot of delegations last night. So first one being Medieval Day that I talked to already. Second, we had the Cochrane Historical and Archival Preservation Society, so SHAPS. They came and told us a little bit about themselves, what they do, and they're requesting an operating grant. We have reached out to all the groups in Cochrane that require funding as we are moving into a 3-year budget. And this was one of many, I think, we're going to be seeing. So it was good to hear from those folks and see all the hard work that they're doing down at the museum, down on the ranch. Third, I guess, delegation was Seniors on the Bow. And they came also looking for operating grant to fit into our 3-year budget process. Also, of no surprise, I think it's going to be a theme and I mentioned this during the election, that with growth we're seeing obviously traffic, but we're also going to see a lot of infrastructure in the softer areas, as in seniors and youth and the library. All of these areas are affected by our growth and are now looking for more room, more funding, etc. So it's going to be some work, and this is what we signed up for, I guess. So. Fourth delegation was from TELUS. They gave us a Pure Fiber program update on what they're working with and how they can bring fiber to our community, so it was interesting. I pummeled them with a whole lot of questions on what our fiber network is about, would they partner with us, and there's a whole lot of questions to be answered yet, so they're going to meet with our administration and talk through what perhaps TELUS could do for Cochrane, just as private enterprise, as opposed to having our own fiber network, but very rudimentary and preliminary talks, but it was good to hear from another source on that. Next, working through my notes here, we talked next about a code of conduct for council. We went through and we passed a new bylaw. The MGA, the Municipal Government Act, is telling us that we had to update our code of conduct, so we did last night. Very little discussion about that. It was just basically the rules of what you can and can't do as a councillor, and what you can and can't say, and how we will act and carry ourselves throughout our term. So that was passed. Next, we heard from our communications department, and we talked about public engagement policy. We had talked a couple weeks back about that in one of our strategic planning sessions, so council was up to speed on all of that. So that went through smoothly last night, so we have a public engagement policy in place. And then next, bridge naming. So we heard from Lori Druk here at the town, also in the communication department, with our bridge naming policy. I guess we just put in place our public engagement policy, so then we went through how that worked and came up with a strategy on how to name our bridge. So obviously everybody's aware of the new bridge that we're constructing starting this summer, going across the Bow River, of course, river song to the rec center on Griffin Road and tying up James Walker Trail to the other side. So council has decided that we would like to get your feedback on how best to name this large piece of important infrastructure for Cochrane. And so we're going to, how's this going? We've got a four-phase program. We're going to collect data that we have been. We were collecting your ideas at the trade show. We've had a letstalkcochrane.ca virtual suggestion box online where you can go and place names, and that's still open. We're going to have a few more public engagement places where you can put in your feedback on what you think the best name is. And then council's going to go through and pick the top 3, and then we're going to go back out to the public, out to you, and you're going to be able to vote online for the best name for the bridge. So all of this will happen over the summer and into the fall, and our hopes are that we will have a name for the bridge, so we can stop calling it the bridge, by the end of the year. So that was exciting. Next, we had notice of motion from Councillor McFadden, and she brought forward she wants us to look at Griffin Road as a corridor and do a study on the design of how that corridor is going to look in the future. Obviously, as I just mentioned, the bridge is going to come in at the bottom of Griffin Road by the rec center, and as it carries through, all that traffic is going to be going down Griffin. So we decided last night as a council that that's an important area that we need to study and look at how we want to see that built out so that there's no surprises in the future where we may need more room for traffic. I think we're in pretty good shape with that, but what are the businesses doing on either side of the road? What is the connection to pathways, pedestrians, all of that good stuff. So I was happy to support that. Next, we had a notice of motion from Councillor Fedeko about looking at the speed limits around town. So we gave direction to administration to come back with a report on looking at a few of the areas around town where speed limits are strange, where we would maybe go from a 30 zone to a 50 zone and then back to a 30. So this is causing some confusion, and really I guess the ultimate goal is people are speeding through playground and school zones. So we're thinking that maybe there's another way we can address that. So the administration is going to come back with a report on what they feel is the best way to attain our goal of getting people to drive the speed limit in these zones. Is that changing speed limits? Is it adding crosswalk or lights or speed bumps? It could be all of those or none of those. So I look forward to hearing back from administration on that. Again, I was a little bit mistaken when I first read it that I thought we were going to be putting all the speed limits down to 30, which we talked about years ago in Cochrane, and I thought I was having a deja vu. But no, we are actually going to look at different ways and strategies on how we can have people just drive the speed limit next to our kids. So that's the ultimate goal there. So that's about it for council. It went on for quite some time. All those delegations I blew through took about 2.5 hours. So yeah, so that's a wrap on that. It's been nice. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a recap on my trip. I was gone for 2 weeks, so this is it's been a month since our last Fireside chat. I've missed doing this, of course, and so I was away in Halifax at FCM. It's a federal conference where we heard from our Prime Minister, all the party leaders, and all the municipalities around Canada get together and send their leaders there. This time, again, as I said, was in Halifax. So highlights for me were I visited the Halifax Library, very cool building. If Cochrane could build something like that, I would be ecstatic. It's so visionary. It won an award in 2014 for one of the top buildings in the world. So I spent quite a bit of time there. I toured through their transit system, learned a few things about how we can implement transit or how we can look at what we should be doing if we were to implement transit. Had a lot of discussions with other municipalities' leaders, brought back some ideas. I have a whole lot of notes about all that. And then I went off on a little bit of a holiday to Colorado and did some in-depth studying on cannabis on my own time and met with their city leaders in Boulder, Colorado. Obviously, cannabis has been legal there for 5 years now. So as we are entering into our legalizing cannabis here in Canada, I guess October 17th now is what we've heard from our Prime Minister. So Cochrane is in great shape. I'm happy to report that we have all of our bylaws almost ready to go. We will have them way before that any legalization takes place. So where we can have retail outlets and where people will be smoking is what we're talking about next. So from Colorado, what I learned was that there's a few restrictions we can put in place and bylaws that we can follow that will make our transition into legal cannabis much smoother. And we are far ahead of a lot of communities across Canada that have not gotten their act together and are in the position that Cochrane is. So I think we're in great shape, and I will finish on a high, pardon the pun, and that will be the Fireside chat for today. Thanks for joining me. Ciao.